This is Phantom Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Andy Alexander. And how you doing? Welcome to the first time we've talked to you on the Phantom Electric Ghost podcast.
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, doing my honestly first ever live interview. So I'm really excited.
Well, I'll introduce you to the world. You're a guitarist, singer, songwriter, pianist, producer, and content creator. You're at San Marcos, Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna. You have your guitar there. You're gonna be able to play it for us a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we actually got your new single that we're going to talk to you about. But before we get into the heart of everything you do, we ask any guest on the show a couple questions. What motivates you, and why do you do what you do?
Honestly, it's kind of hard to describe like what exactly drives me. It's something intrinsic, kind of, like I've been doing it since I was really little, and I couldn't imagine not playing music ever. Like it's not something that I couldn't imagine existing without playing music. Not even necessarily guitar, but just like creating anything. Yeah.
Well, the creative bug is like the thing I always ask people who are creative. Being a creative myself is like, it seems like it's like breathing. It's like something I would do whether or not it was going to generate income.
No, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to play my piano whether I got a gig or not. Mm-hmm. Like if I get an idea, I'm just going to jump on the keys.
Oh yeah.
And it's just something that like we have a permission structure that maybe people that don't have it, because there's some people that look at creative people and they get like, well, how can they do that? It's because I think everybody's creative, but some people, they've kind of restricted their possibilities. And yeah. I think we have gotten to, as when you're a creative person, you have that, like your fingers, like you want to be on that fretboard, where you want to be on the keys, or you want to be on that sax, or you want to be on the drums. It just, you feel it, and you get drawn to whatever instrument speaks to you.
Oh yeah, no, and it's like you think about it all the time, like you feel it kind of in here, and you're just like, it's like an itch you got to scratch. Like, you're not really content with, I don't know, the way maybe a day is going until you at least get your hand on the guitar, even if you're just sitting on the edge of your bed, unplugged and just, noodling or something like that. It's just, you got to do it.
What made you want to get into music? Was it something that your parents like kind of nurtured you toward music, or is it something you found?
Well, my mom got me started with piano lessons when I was real little. I was 5 years old, and she started taking me to piano lessons and all the classical stuff, Mm-hmm. And my dad, he plays guitar. I mean, not so much anymore, but he used to play acoustic guitar, and just when I was really small, just sing me songs, strum on the guitar. And Brett always try to, like, when he wasn't home or something, like pick up his guitar and just like mess with it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like 2 or 3, but like, I'd always try to mess with it. I'd always want to like touch it or like play with the strings or something. And he got me my first acoustic when I was 7 for Christmas. Didn't touch it for quite a while, kind of like I just messed with it, but nothing serious really. Didn't actually try to learn, but yeah, I kept doing piano. And I worked with a wonderful teacher named Dr. Karen Munson. Mm-hmm. She passed on a number of years ago, but she was incredible lady, brilliant teacher. And she got me into all the, piano recitals, competitions in the area and everything. And, I mean, I never won, but.
No, it's just, I think a piano is and guitar are both great writing instruments.
Oh yeah.
200%. And so when did you start to like go from playing, known compositions to thinking like, I could actually write my own composition? When did that start to kick in?
Well, it's actually kind of interesting. It happened when I was 16, and I was just, doing I started messing around with GarageBand, just recording mm-hmm. covers of songs I liked. Like I did a couple of songs by the Runaways. I was doing some Bruce Springsteen, stuff like that. And one day I kind of just like sat down. I had my laptop, and I was like, all right, what am I going to do today? And I was like, man, why don't I just write something? Like there's nothing telling me like I can't do it. Like literally, like, yeah, why don't I just write something?
It's an epiphany in your head when you realize like I was sitting there trying to play the Clash back in the 70s. I'm trying to play Joy Division because I'm like watching MTV. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like that was a big thing, and it was like, wow. And then I go to like some guitar center. I'm like, I found a Moog I could get. It was
Oh
sitting
yeah.
around before they went crazy on the prices. You could find them sitting around, and people weren't charging a lot for them. So I was like, hey, maybe I can copy what I see on MTV with Joy Division and see what they like, and all these bands you can see these bands showing up, and they're like, hey, I want to be like a band.
Right.
I want to be like what I see, like with Duran Duran. I want to see the Clash, or see all the, and so that is like the possibility of like, I guess I had the same bug with the people saw the Beatles, like
Mm-hmm.
kicked off tons of bands because those kids like in that day they saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. They're like, hey, I could do that.
Right. Yeah. No, but literally, that's kind of just exactly what happened. I just the thought hit me, and I was like, man, well, I don't have any ideas, so I set a timer for an hour, and I was like, got to write something within an hour. Just put something down. It doesn't matter if it sucks or not. And I mean, of course, it sucked. It was
Yeah,
absolute
first thing you do
garbage. But
is never like what you do when you get there.
no, yeah, no. But I mean, it got the ball rolling. So the next day, the day after that, kind of like every day, I just start like, oh, let me try this idea. Let me just hit record and play, and like
Mhm.
just I was a terrible singer, so I hadn't sung at all before, really, like But I was like, well, someone's got to do it. I don't know any singers.
Yeah, well, that's the singer-songwriter motif. It's kinda like the Dylan thing.
Yeah.
Dylan, gave the permission structure to say, "Hey, if you got an idea," actually, if you're the singer and you're the writer, singer-songwriter, that in itself, even though you might not be like Marvin Gaye, you might not be Frank Sinatra, might be like the Tin Pan Alley had this idea you had to be this perfect singer. Dylan kinda blew that out,
Right.
where, like, if you have the heart and you have something to say, that can actually be cool, you know?
Yeah, Dolly Parton said something. I'm gonna butcher the quote, but it was like, all you need is 3 chords and a truth, something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, 'cause if you
Yeah.
can the honesty of it, it can actually come through, the vulnerability and the honesty. That was kinda like the punk aesthetic,
Hmm.
with the Ramones and the Clash, like Joe Strummer. He could get out there, and 'cause he felt that heart of what he was trying to say, it's like, doesn't have to be perfect pitch to actually have a lot to say, and he can actually get out there, and so
Oh yeah.
it's just a matter of, like, giving yourself that permission. Say,
Like,
yeah, it's like, don't worry what anybody says. Just keep on doing it, and over time, like your 10,000 hours, you're gonna get good at finding your voice the way what you can do.
no, exactly,
So
absolutely.
maybe just like because you have the guitar there, maybe you can kinda show us a couple, like, maybe sketches of some of your songs, like, without all the intricate parts, but maybe some of your riffs.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's see. So one I wrote in 2020 during lockdown. Bit of a dark time, real depressed. Not a whole lot going on, but it was a song called Leviathan, and it really didn't take a whole lot of time to write. It kind of just happened, really, and ended up not doing anything with it for about 3 years until summer of 2023 when we went into the studio and recorded it. But uh, it's I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like it's got a little bit of the way I always kind of described it. Like it has like an edge, but it doesn't take itself too seriously, like in the riff.
Mhm.
Um, and it's kind of just like using those Hendrix chords, a whole lot of.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the riff itself is really simple. It's kind of like I don't know. I feel like I borrowed a bit from like the old big band swing stuff because I absolutely love that stuff. Like Louis
Yeah.
Prima,
Yeah, yeah.
absolute favorite. But it's kind of just pedaling back and forth from like the root note.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, no, pretty straightforward. And then the chorus is just a variation of that. But yeah, no, I had the first chunk, and then I don't know. I was listening to a bunch of like Marty Friedman stuff, like his solo albums,
Mhm.
and I don't exactly know what the motivation was behind it, but I kind of just wanted to see where the
Yeah, that
song could
vibe.
go. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, well,
As
everybody gets a vibe, like, every musician, like, you have your influences, and, like, sometimes when I'm playing, like, fusion jazz or experimental electronic music, I might pull out, like, a show tune. I
right.
might pull out, like, something I heard on a jingle, and it
Hmm.
might get it's whatever's in my subconscious. I go back and I listen, it's like, "Oh, I actually brought that in," and it's because like, that when you're a musician, like, that kinda stuff happens. Like, the stuff that's kinda buried in your head is, like, comes through your fingers and comes out.
Right. No, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I just happened to be working on just random arpeggio stuff at the time. Like I found some book, like arpeggios or whatever. So I kind of just try to figure out, okay, how do I modulate from G flat to E flat, and then just that's where that whole kind of bit
That's
comes
awesome.
in. And then we're in the key of E, so I mean, like, vocals are out anyway. We can kind of just have some free time with the guitar. So I just came up with some more riffs in the key of E flat, I guess, and
Well,
extra
yeah.
long solo, real indulgent, real, self-absorbent, but it's fun.
So when you write a song, do you kinda come up with a riff or like, I have talked to tons of songwriters, and it's like, well, sometimes different parts come to you and it serves whatever the song is. Like, you actually might have like, the solo might come to you before the riff, might come to you
Yeah.
before, like, the whole story. Like, every song comes in a different way, or do you have, like, a standard thing that happens for you?
No, no, definitely not a standard thing. But that's the word though. It like, it comes to you. So like for me, like I never feel like I make something happen. Like I don't know, like I have some kind of agency in this. I feel more like
Your
it's
muse is like
about
you're calling something's coming from.
yeah, you have to open up like your essence, your being, and just be
Yeah,
receptive.
it's
Kind of
very
like
Hendrixian.
yeah, I don't know, but
Well, Hendrix, like, Hendrix had this gig with the Isley Brothers when he was a side guy,
mhm.
and it's famous that he actually went in the middle of doing one of their songs and did, like, like, his own song, and they asked him, like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "The universe gave me this, and I had to put it down." So, in the middle of the recording session, like, he went and pulled something that was, like, very Hendrixian, had nothing to do with, like, the Isley Brothers song he was working on,
Right.
but he's like, he had this, like, "Well, I gotta get it on tape."
Yeah,
So
no, exactly, exactly. But yeah, no, I mean, like for me, like with guitar riffs, like I never feel like I come up with anything. I kind of feel like this riff always existed, like from the beginning of time, and I kind of
and
just
called
happen to
it.
be receptive, and
You can
I just
channel
saw
it.
it there, and,
Yeah,
and
you
like,
get like the muse, like the
yeah,
Victorian poets had the muse, and, like, I think all artists, I've talked to authors, I talked to actors, film directors, and they say, you kinda tuned in, and if you're tuned in, then things come to you, and you have your craft, right? You know how to play your guitar. You put your time in, you know your skills, you know your instrument. But it's that the act of the creation is the fact that this stuff, that you're in tune to it and it can come to you and you can
yeah,
use it, you know?
yeah. That's kind of what like the whole technical technique aspect of playing an instrument, like in my case, guitar. That's kind of like what it represents to me. It's not so much like an arms race or a competition. I know some people, they're into that, and that's super cool. Like the real
Yeah,
technical, like
Stevie.
polyphia type stuff out there. And that's awesome. That's really cool. That's something, it means something to them, and a lot of people resonate with that. For me, I've always felt like it's more about you kind of just learn the techniques that you dig, but you kind of want to learn as much as you can so that when the universe is trying to, give you an idea and
Yeah,
speak to you can kind of like, wrap your fingers around it and you're not like, oh
yeah.
shit.
It's like interesting. Like, there's a story about Robbie Robertson actually took a Curtis Mayfield where people get ready, inverted it, and made it the weight. And like, you can't even tell that those 2 songs are the same because one of them is like the soul song from People Get Ready,
Right.
and the weight is like this, Appalachian kinda country rock song. You wouldn't think they're the same at all, but it's an actually inverted, like, chord structure was the same.
Oh
It's like
wow.
he took a Harrison Mayfield song and kinda inverted it, and it shows how when you get to a certain level of mastery, you can take things and have them apply to other spaces.
Right.
You can take different genres, and like you're talking about, like, you take something from the 20s, you take like a flapper type style and put it into a song, if you
Yeah.
wanted to. You can take you can take a fusion and put it into a rock song. You take reggae and throw it into whatever. You can take anything, other form, and kind of mix it in. in
No,
different
exactly.
creators.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just the process of writing to me is always like it's the reason I love, being a creative is like you don't know like what's gonna happen. And it's like
Right.
it's always like it seems to be like for me, it's always like flowing. I always get ideas. And it's weird. It's like oh, because so I'm not gonna like jinx it, but it's like yeah, it's like it seems like when you're super creative, it seems to like come a lot. For
Yeah.
me,
No,
it seems
exactly.
to happen like all the time. It could maybe because you're having fun.
No, it doesn't. It never feels like a chore. It doesn't feel like work when you like sit down and like. For me, like I just literally just hit record in Logic and I just start playing, and then I'm
Yeah,
like,
you just
no,
have an
play
open
something.
session. Yeah, you do an open
Yeah,
session and you just see what happens. Then
yeah.
you go
And
back and listen to it.
then in like 30 minutes, like maybe I'll play like one bar where I'm like, oh, there's something
That's
there.
it.
Then I'll just
Yeah,
play that for the next 2 hours over and over again, messing with it.
that was like
Um,
Zappa's method. Zappa's methodology, he would record everything. He would take his, like, live shows, studio shows, and he'd go in his, like, living room and kinda like, "Oh, this tape goes with this one goes." He would, like, pull things non-sequentially from different sessions and say, "Hey, that's it."
right.
And I think that's a cool way because I've talked to a lot of people, it's like things are not always linear. They're
Hmm.
not always like sometimes you'll get an idea from this session or like I did a live gig and this thing worked and this thing's on tape and say, oh, what if I take this and put it with that? You don't know. It's just this thing sometimes or sometimes it comes in a dream and it's the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, I know. I know. But for me, nothing sucks more than like, you played something, it was cool, and then it's gone. There's no way to recall it. It's like you
Yeah,
didn't record it,
sometimes
you
it's
didn't capture it. It was a moment.
yeah, sometimes there are moments like even if you're like a really good musician, you don't actually capture that vibe. You can get real frustrated. It's like, hey, I can't get it based on, it's kind of like a painting. Becomes
Mhm.
like a sound painting. It's like you put it on the canvas and that's what it is. And that's why you gotta have the recorder on as much as you can.
Right.
Sometimes
Oh yeah.
you might wanna take that and use it. And a lot of artists, they end up doing that. And, they have these big archives of stuff and say, "Yeah, I'm glad I had that on."
Right.
Like
Oh yeah. No, definitely. Definitely.
so I wanted to, like, maybe show people I think I've got your, one of your a couple of your songs up.
Mhm.
Now, you had Leviathan. Do you wanna play a little bit of that and then play your single? Go right with your single, like, "Are You a Dreamer?"
No, I mean, we were just talking about Leviathan. We could start with that. Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with that. I'm gonna play, like, 30 seconds so we don't get in trouble with people, but here we go. Let's see, here we go.
I've been sold houses, don't know where to go, lost is all it's ever been. Take a pill, drop a cap, pour it down the hatch. Well, now what's this world that's new? I look around, confused and true. Just another lost cause, yeah, life's a bitch.
So that's pretty cool. It reminds me of a lot of, the stuff I used to watch on MTV back in the day when they actually had videos of
Right.
bands. They actually had bands like Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue playing.
Right. God.
Yeah, because now it's like, oh, it's like reality shows. It's like, I wanna see music. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I know. I know. Um, no,
so
that one
do
was
you
fun to
find that you have a
record.
place to play these songs? Do you get to actually play these things in the world?
Well, it's been tough recently. It's honestly kind of just hard to find bandmates, really. Like,
Find drummers and bass players, it's hard to
bass
get.
players are the hardest. Like I'm telling you, bass players, oh my God. Like
Nobody
trying to
wants to be a bass
no
player
one
anymore.
wants to I don't get it. Bass player is cool as shit. Like,
They're the coolest,
dude.
it's coolest. Well, like in funk music, it's foundational, and like in jazz,
Oh yeah.
but maybe in rock, people have it kind of it's fallen off. People don't feel the need.
I don't know. Whenever I'm in the studio, like the most fun I have is when I'm recording the bass. Like I don't know why, but like the just laying the bass down, like it's just you can do so much with so little.
Yeah, but the
And
bass, like I like my Moog bass. Like I love putting things down with my Moog bass because it's kind of like known as a bass synthesizer. and there's this stuff you can do, like, it's just a monophonic synth.
Hmm.
It can't do the chords of my bigger synths, my big Roland Junos and stuff,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like a tool for the job, like a bass is like a certain vibe that you're getting for that, sonic layout of your song. It's like foundational to your rhythm section, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, like, even what string you play it on, like, has such a major impact on, like, the entire, like, just, I don't know, the timbre, the feel, the everything of a section. It's like, do I play it on the low E string? Do I play the same note on the A string? It completely changes it. There's so much you can do with it. It's such a cool
Yeah.
instrument.
And then when you're playing with the drummer, like locking in with the rhythm or being
Oh,
a
that's
little off,
everything.
or being like a little more adventurous and being a little off rhythm and playing with what you can do. Cause I was a big fan of like, Entwistle from The Who.
Hmm.
Cause he was like known for like lead bass. He would actually play these bass lines that were like what a lot of rock bands would have as their lead guitar lines.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. Like, it's really hard to find bass players now. Like, really. I don't think I've done a show in about 3 years now, and I mean, it sucks, but
Yeah.
we keep playing,
Oh yeah, because at least with the tech today, you could actually use Ableton or some, or have a backing track of a bass line and kind of play with a drum and a bass line and be a lead, like,
Yeah.
and still
I
be
mean,
able to kick off with the way the tech is now. You could
oh no,
have some backing tracks
it's
actually.
opened a lot of doors for sure, but I don't know, for me, like, if I feel like if I'm not doing it with a live band, like, for
It doesn't
real,
feel,
no
it
backing
doesn't,
tracks, no whatever, like, what's the point of being on stage? I don't know, like, I'll
yeah.
just,
That is the thing. Like if you're in that mindset of like, I like the 4-piece or the 5-piece, 3-piece bands,
yeah.
and then you have to kind of settle with today. If I get a gig, I might have to go with like a CDJ and playing good lead guitar over a CDJ. I'm like, really? Is that what I gotta
I
do?
can't. I couldn't. I don't know. It's just, if you want to hear it sound like on the record, just listen to the damn record. Like, you don't have to go
Yeah,
to the show. Like, you get a unique experience every night, every show you go to. There's always going to be some differences. Maybe you play the solo a bit different, maybe
yeah.
whatever,
What do you
but it's
think
a
about
unique
fans'
experience.
expectations today? Do you think fans are, and I grew up fans, we kind of knew if I went to see the Allman Brothers
Mhm.
that they're not going to play it exactly like the record. Like if I went to see Funkadelic, I knew they weren't playing it exactly like the record, and it was kind of cool. And I knew they weren't going to play it like that, right? Do you feel like people have an expectation that's going to be really like what they hear hear like on their phone? They think it
Well,
should be exactly that.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it depends, but I don't really think so. I feel like at the core of everyone's being, everyone really, when they go to a concert, they want to have a good time and they want to have a memorable experience, and and more importantly, they want to have a shared experience. They want to rock out or vibe out with you. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
kind of, it's a communal experience. Music
Yeah,
is communal and social by nature. So I feel like people just want to be impacted in a way. They want to get moving, they want to feel something, so I don't think that people necessarily are gonna give you a bad Yelp review because maybe you fudged apart a little bit or changed it up a tiny bit. But
yeah.
yeah.
But it's just like we're not living in the age of like the 4-piece kind of rock centered
No.
bands, and we've got a lot of these people that are set up with the backing tracks, and it just seems like people are being primed for that. And it's cool when you actually have a band that still does it the old way, but it seems like it's far in between because we have so much hip hop and EDM influenced type of artist that, or maybe dance acts that are more locked in to having exactly as they need for their choreography.
Yeah.
So it's like was not living in the age of like a Guns N' Roses and a Def Leppard and Iron Maiden and people going on stage with like these rock bands. It's like, yeah, I know it, yeah, it's gonna sound like a little bit like the record, but we know they're gonna go off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, it might just be wishful thinking. Maybe that's just how I cope. I kind of hope that people just are still fundamentally just want to have a good time, but I feel like it's also more expensive to put on the whole actual live music show every night at all these places. You got to run sound, you got to mic up amps, you got to bring all this
Yeah.
equipment, backup equipment,
Well, yeah,
guitar
you have to have
techs,
an
roadies.
online band. I mean, like a band has to have a band, right? A
Yeah,
DJ, he just has a case.
right.
Yeah, he can walk in with his like, his CDJ or his MPC and just hook up, and he can just like jump on a plane with a suitcase, right? He doesn't have to
Yeah.
have all the stuff that a band. Like when I go into New York, just my band is just me, and I still had to have a van because
Right.
I'm just like a synth head and I have tons of synths, and I have all these synths and I have amps and stuff, and like even though it was this one guy, I still had a van worth of equipment because I'm a keyboard, so I have tons of stuff, and so and see these guys would come on stage with like just a CDJ, and then they're off with their little briefcase, and I gotta have like my roadies with me. Two guys are like, I can't just do a one person operation.
No.
So that kind of make the economy of like, oh, that's the way it used to be, but now it's like they expect, oh, you can just jump on a plane with your suitcase and go to the gigs. Like, no, I actually have to drive a van.
Right. It's like, hey man, I got like 2 Marshall stacks. I got like a pedal board. I got like 4 guitars I'm bringing with me.
You
I only want to play
check.
this one.
Your sound check. You got a sound check.
Oh yeah.
It's a totally different place, but like more in terms of when you play like a song with piano, we're gonna play your single pretty soon. Do you actually like go between like the rock oriented and then the songs that are more like have keyboards or other types of bass? They're not based on just like a guitar focused sound, but incorporate guitar and piano and other things.
Well, for the new one, for Are You a Dreamer, that one, the first cut of the demo that I did in Logic didn't have guitar at all. It was just piano. I had a bass guitar on there, and it was just piano, bass, vocals. I ended up layering some, some strings, some brass and all that over, but guitar was kind of the afterthought. Like, it was more of like a little bit of light seasoning at the end of it, kind of just to see like, all right, let's see if we can give it a little bit of edge. Let's see like how much, just enough, not too much. We don't want to overpower kind of, but that one was a trip to write. That one was something else.
That's cool when you get into that layered kind of production and you start to see like once you have keyboards, it can widen like the direction.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, personally, honestly, I kind of like writing on piano more than I do on guitar. I mean, maybe it's just because I've been playing piano for longer. I kind of have my head around the
like
theory a bit more.
Songwriter's like instrument.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you can do everything. Like it's all right there: bass, rhythm, leads, everything.
Yeah, you can sketch out everybody's part. Like that's why I love being the keyboardist in my bands. Is I would sketch out bass parts, I would sketch out guitar parts, string parts, horn parts. Because I actually was a woodwind. I played flute and clarinet, so I kind of knew how to do it from playing a woodwind and then actually doing it on a synth. You can replicate what you do on a woodwind on a synth. So that being able to write all the parts, it gets you in this kind of more of a songwriter mode than maybe just being a guitar player mode.
Yeah.
Then you actually looking at everything that's in the song. It's like, hey, maybe I need a cello here, or maybe I need some flutes here, or maybe I need this, or maybe that. It starts to make it's like, oh, what's this song need? To color it, right?
No, exactly. And I mean, like, it's interesting. It's really weird. Like, it's kind of hard to describe the flow, kind of, because like I remember when I wrote that one, it was in 2022, and I mean, just messing on the piano, same as I would on the guitar. I came up with a little bit over there, and then I started singing over it. And I don't know, I feel like for the next about week and a half or so, I was just pulling 10 to 14-hour days, just doing nothing but that. It was during the summer. I didn't have summer classes or anything. So that's all I was doing, just 12, 14-hour days, working just this one song. And I didn't end up finishing it. The song didn't have an ending. It didn't even have a title. Like by the time I finished the demo, it was just Mix 9. I just had a WAV file titled Mix 9 that I would just like send.
And then you came back to it, like you let it go, and then you came back to it.
I didn't come back to it intentionally. Like I always thought like it was cool because of all the vocal harmonies, the way they're kind of like, it flows interestingly, kind of. Then it has all these sections. It's almost more like a theatrical musical number in a way.
Like a rock opera.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's something that like Pink Floyd or Queen or.
No, I was listening to a ton of Queen too. That's all-time favorite Queen album, Queen 2. I was listening to a ton of it around that time, and I was like, man, like,
you want to play with that. Yeah, what's cool about the progressive or the kind of operatic structures is like they have movements.
Mhm.
You have timing changes. You can have key changes. Like sounds like sometimes today I've seen. I don't want to come down on people, but the seems we were into like groove, clip based music. Sometimes doesn't have the structure of a songwriting. You know what you would have been taught by your. You know, if you go to Berkeley or something, it's
Right.
like you gotta have. Shouldn't you have an intro? Shouldn't you have an outro? Shouldn't you have the melody? Shouldn't you have the hook? Shouldn't you
Yeah,
have this?
you know,
You have these like you have a silent section. You have a crescendo, decrescendo. You have different parts.
dynamics, exactly.
Yeah.
Dynamics. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Like I've noticed, like a lot of music, like the newer stuff and like some R&B, hip hop categories, like there's no sections per se on the instrumental track. Like it just repeats the same loop over and over and over
Yeah, it's
again
kinda
for 2 to
clip-based
4
music.
minutes. Yeah, and it's like, okay, but like when's the B section coming? Like, so I'm just hearing the same thing.
Yeah, because it's kinda like, I think it's like that we'll get into a little bit about songwriting, like, if you're in, like, a DAW, if you're in a digital audio workstation, you're on a like, it creates this kinda clip-based music. Now, if you know music theory, you can still you have your music theory in that structure.
Mhm.
But if you're more of a kind of feel-based or hip-hop based or EDM based, you might just go with repeating things without having, like, the artistic intentions that older music might have had. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have the buildups. You don't do stuff that in classical music you would do, or in jazz you would do, or
Yeah.
even just a Beatles song would do, like a Beatles structure, like Beatle chords and,
Oh yeah. No,
using
no, no, yeah.
it's like where are the dynamics? Where's the buildup? Where's the where is it?
But the thing is, like, you know, and I don't think there's anything wrong with field based. Like, pretty much all the stuff I do is field based because, like, I don't know, like, I know music theory, I learned music theory, but it never came super intuitively to me. So, like, whenever I'm writing something or playing something or working on something, I'm not thinking music theory, even if I'm coming up with a part or trying to figure out how to from one part to another. I'm just playing something and I'm like, oh, that sounds good,
Well,
you
it
know, like,
feels, yeah. The feel,
yeah.
well, the feel, yeah, feel is everything. It's like art, like in fusion jazz, like
Hmm.
modal jazz. Sometimes you just have a sketch,
Yeah.
right? And you'll go off and you might get discordant, and you might come back, you might go off and come back, and you have these buildups, but it's like it's not always highly structured. It could go every time you do that song, you might do it a different way.
Yeah.
You have like core parts you go to, but you can always expand or not contract or whatever you want.
Yeah,
It's
you can
kind of
have
like
those
whatever you
themes
feel
you
at
go
the moment.
back to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, honestly, I don't remember some of the chords I played in this song because it's been so long. And we ended up using the piano part from the demo in the studio. That was another thing that was really cool about this one. Um so I never finished the demo, and then in early 2024, like January 2024, I was in the studio, a place called The Bubble in Austin. And I was in there with my producer, Chris Frenchie Smith. Absolute genius, brilliant guy. Like, my God, I've been working with him for the past 5 years. Incredible
Mhm.
producer. Just, oh yeah. So yeah, I was in there with him and Brendan Sanders, his audio engineer, and I had my phone. We plugged it into the console, and we were just listening to demos because we were trying to figure out what we were gonna do next. And
You pulled that one up.
well, I didn't. Like, I just had the folder. I gave it to him because, you know, he was sitting over there at the console. I was on the couch. I was like, here, just, you know, go through and feel free to, like, you know, play whatever you want, you know? So we settled on Gilded pretty quick because that one was the most recent one I'd written. I was pretty excited about it. And it was the shortest song I'd done because usually my songs you know, kind of tend to drag on for a bit. But this one was under 3 minutes. I fought the urge to do a super shreddy guitar solo. It's kind of just a straight to the point punk rock kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then we were just listening to a bunch of other ones, and they saw this file, Mix 9. What's Mix 9? I was like, oh yeah, go ahead, play that one. I don't know, haven't heard it in a minute, you know. And it could kind of just decide that's what needed to happen, you know. I mean, it was a bit of a scary thing because, you know, there was no ending. it didn't even really have a whole lot of parts that like repeated. It was very linear. The demo was very linear.
Mhm.
And then there were all the operatic vocal sections, which were like, man, how the fuck are we gonna do these in the studio? Like there's like some of these sections, they're like 30 individual tracks that I just bounced into a stereo file and brought it back in. Yeah. And it's like, yeah. So it was interesting. So we ended up doing a pre-recording session, just us two, just me and Frenchie, and we stuck the demo into Radar. It's, you know, old computer, that's what he uses, and we just chopped it up.
You chopped it up, yeah.
Moved sections around. I'm like, hey, he was like, hey, this piano bit right here that you hear at the beginning, that can be our hook. That can come back here. That can come back in the pre-chorus.
Oh,
nice.
So that's a cool way of doing it. I love doing that. You know,
yeah.
Peter Gabriel kind of showed that on So. He used to do that. He used to like bounce things around.
Oh yeah. And we ended up trimming off like a ton of poetry, you know what I mean? Like there were a lot more lyrics than made it onto the final cut. Yeah. I think it served the ultimate vision of the song better that we cut those, but I don't know, sometimes when I'm playing the song, like singing the song in my head, like I still sometimes sing the original lyrics, and I'm like, oh wait, no, we scrapped those. Wait, hold on.
Well, that's a cool thing to do, because you know, that's why I think songs should kind of be in the moment when you play them live. They can, you know, you might, like Dylan is famous for playing different versions of his like songs. Like they're not exactly like, we could have totally different lyrics, different structure to it. They would just, you know, people would get freaked out because like he didn't play it the same way.
Right.
He like change it around, and they didn't tell the band. It's like, that's the way you gotta keep on your toes.
Right. Yeah, no, but yeah, no, I mean, we chopped it up. That took about, I don't know, I think about 7-8 hours of just chopping and writing notes and chopping, writing notes again and again and again. And the following week, we went into the studio to start cutting everything. And we decided that we were going to use the piano, string, horn parts from the demo.
Oh, wow.
I had to recut some of it though, because like, you know, when you're writing a song, when you're doing a demo, not every part's, you know, studio quality perfect. Yeah. Like you flub some notes here and there, and you say, it's fine, you know, whatever. Like it's just it's just the demo. I'll just, you know, when I go into the studio, I'll do it proper, but this doesn't matter, you know? So I had to recut those. And it's funny. So we were going to go into the studio on, I think January 3rd. And I had like one day, it was New Year's Eve. And I was just sitting there like frantically trying to like redo the parts, because like my girlfriend, now fiance, we were gonna, you know, we had New Year's Eve plans, and I
had to get it done.
I was like, I gotta get this done. I can't do it on New Year's Day because we've got New Year's Day plans. I gotta like do this now. This is my only opportunity. So she ended up tagging along. She brought her crochet and everything, and I felt terrible because I was just like, oh shit, you know, I gotta get this done quickly. But you know, she was fine. She was chilling. You know, she was having fun. She was enjoying the whole thing. But yeah, cranked it out, and then I left like 2 sections unfinished. But I was like, that's okay. I don't got to be into the studio till 11. I'll wake up at 6. So day of, finished those parts, and we actually ended up bringing in all the operatic vocal parts from the demo too. So all those,
just bring them in as is.
Yeah, as is.
Can do that. Yeah, well, sometimes that works. It's like, because sometimes you do something that it's really hard to replicate, and you just have to keep it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what happened. You know, it just didn't make sense to try to just recreate, because we were just, you know, we would have been aiming for what was on the demo anyway, as far as the way those sound.
With the tech today, you can just grab stuff and you can bring it in, and you can kind of remaster it and run it through the board and clean it up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Reprocess it, and you can fix a lot. And sometimes some things like you want it a little scratchy for like a feel. Like there's sometimes some things that might not be the best recording, but you can still use it. You know, you know, the Kings, when they, you know, you really got me. That was a broken amp.
Yeah.
And when they tried to get a better amp, it didn't sound good on a better amp, on an amp that wasn't broken. And it's like, oh, I got to keep it. You know, sometimes it just works. Like that's a point in time kind of sound
Exactly.
painting moment, you know, that happens,
Exactly.
happy accidents, right?
Yeah, no, just it's like you said, just a moment in time. It's never going to happen again, no matter how hard you try. You can try to replicate, it's never going to happen. You just have to accept that this is a moment in time. And, you know, and that kind of ties into the whole thing with shows. Like, you know, what you're hearing on the record is that moment in time. You know, this is not, you know, 2 years later when you're on stage, this is not the same moment anymore. You're not going to hear this. You can always go back and listen to this moment, but I can't replicate that moment.
Yeah. I mean, you get some people like James Brown and the Eagles used to find members of their bands if they couldn't replicate exactly.
Mhm.
But it's like, you know, that takes the fun out of the gig.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But let me get to this song. I want to play it because we've been talking about it. So, "Are You a Dreamer?" Right? We're gonna
All
play
right.
it.
Yeah.
Gonna play a little bit of it. Here we go.
Do you need someone that you can be? A brand new personality, a little change in you that you need, meaningless as can be. Tell me now who's the one? Yeah, I'm the one who can heal all your sins. Just hand over all of your earthly possessions and I'll set you free.
So that's as much as I can do right now. But that's pretty cool. It does have that operatic kind of Queen feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the fact, it's like the build up and your voice comes in. And how did you like you said, like you weren't really confident of your voice when you first started. How did you build that up to be where you are singing there?
Well, I mean, I kind of just kept, you know, trying to do it in the, you know, confines of my own room where, you know, just get some privacy, just try to sound like a jackass over and over again, you know, but it's actually kind of funny. Like I discovered that if I like push up my pharyngeal wall or whatever in here and kind of shrink my voice box and bring my voice out here, that I could sing higher.
You can get the higher
You
sound.
can get the higher register. And, you know, I'd watch like videos and read articles about like, oh, diaphragm support and all this stuff. But
and then you found it. You got to find what's comfortable for you, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you found where your voice, like, it had settled in. It's like, hey, you could control it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You just do it enough, and like, you know, I tried to implement all the diaphragm support stuff pretty early on, but like it just didn't make any sense to me. But eventually, like, it kind of just started happening. Like, I don't know, because you're trying to hit a certain note, hold it for a certain amount of time. If you're breathing from here, it's just not going to happen. So you kind of just adjust intuitively, kind of, until eventually you land on something that works, and then you just keep doing the thing that works.
Did you find it hard to do vocals and play your instrument at the same time, or was that easy for you?
It was a lot easier than learning how to sing. I mean, that was probably the hardest part and the most painful part. Just learning or just getting to where you felt good-ish about your singing, that like, oh, I don't sound like, you know, crap all the time. Okay, yeah, you know what, this is kind of cool, you know. But no, singing and playing at the same time, like, I guess it depends on the song, because there's some songs where like the guitar has like a weird rhythm to it that's very, I don't know,
off. It's like it cannot come. It's like not in the same cadence as your voice, right?
It doesn't. No, it does not track whatsoever, and it can be a little irregular or weird or something. And I still struggle with some of those off the top of my head. Honestly, Gilded's a little tricky.
Tricky.
Yeah, because the riff, it's like it's doing this thing, you know, like. And you know, your voice is kind of just like ba 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 ba, completely disconnected from the
where
rhythm.
it becomes like a piano, like where you have to be able to get your treble and bass hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always the rub when I started, singing my stuff is, I'm doing these keyboard parts and they're treble and bass, and I might have another, working one versus another and doing totally different patterns, and then having to do the vocals. It's
Yeah.
like it took a while to even be able to like, oh, can I even do it?
Yeah, that one's tricky though. But I mean, like, what I've kind of discovered is kind of like anything's really just a function of time and like effort. Like, you can really do anything you put your mind to. Like, if you just put in the
It's like a
time and
rehearsal. Yeah, you
yeah,
kinda you have
exactly.
to do it. Like, once you give yourself a place to do it and a place to kinda do the rehearsal,
Mhm.
it's like the same effort that got you to be a master of your fretboard gets you to be the master of like, well, how do I present this whole
Yeah,
stagecraft? Like, I gotta be able to play this guitar. I gotta be able to like look good if I'm doing a video or a camera in front of the audience. I gotta present myself. I gotta
oh,
sing the song. I gotta
oh,
be able to be in
yeah.
time with the drummer and the bass player. I gotta be able to put the whole thing together.
Yeah,
You know,
that sucked. The first music video, first time like in front of like an actual camera it was for Same Story, the first single I put out.
well,
God,
that was hard.
I got blitz, man. Like, it's like he kept telling me, it's just like you look like you're aware of a camera in the room. I'm like, no shit, it's right there.
Right in front of you.
So the guy who owned the place had a bottle of Jack Daniels and he was just like, hey, you want some of this? And I was just like, yeah. So
Kind
it
of
worked
got you.
out, but my God, it's gotten
Yeah,
better since. Now I have fun with
right.
it, but
It's hard to like get that. Well, yeah, be in front of a real audience and then be in front of like a director and trying to do a video is a whole different effort. It could be a lot of work because you could
yeah,
be like spending like 8 hours to get like 4 minutes.
I know, man. Oh God. Oh God. I know, and it's just a lot more stressful because like when you're playing in front of a real audience, like you're getting real time feedback. Like if you suck and you're totally blowing it, like
You
they're
know,
kind of just gonna be ignoring you and going over to the bar. But like if you're doing good, you're gonna get feedback that represents the fact that you're crushing it, and kind of just snowballs from there. The energy just builds
yeah,
and
you're
builds.
getting the feedback, back and forth. The crowd's feeding you, and you instant, if you're killing it like a comedian.
Yeah, exactly.
You know it. Like you're like, oh, I'm bombing. I can tell. I know. But yeah, it's like it's hard to know. Like the director isn't really giving you a good feedback loop. Like, well, how do I know that this is better than that one, or this
Right.
is what the heck do I know?
No, it can be tricky. It can be tricky. I mean, like, and I was working with a fantastic videographer, this guy named Eric Hunter, and he's great, like really, really good. I mean, it was really just me. Like, I just hadn't done it before, and I was
Yeah,
just,
you
oh
got to
God.
get comfortable. Like
Yeah,
anytime you get to another stage of your, like if compared to like if you're in a club, 300 people or something, or 100 people versus you get on a festival stage,
yeah.
totally different like vibes. It's like we're like you might be cool at the 300, are you good with the 10,000?
Oh yeah.
So, did you have like with your music, are you working toward like EPs or albums, or are you just putting out singles?
So far, I've only put out singles, but I'd really love to do an album. I was actually talking with my producer friend, she mid to late last year, about potentially kind of starting to put that on our radar at least. We haven't exactly locked in anything specifically because we want to try to be efficient about it.
Mhm.
Because we live in a world with finite resources, and
Yeah.
you just you want to be smart and efficient about it. So what our goal is to kind of just be able to go in there, knock out like all the drum parts in like 2 days, go back in guitars, everything. Or we're thinking of doing guitars and drums at the same time, because you get a different feel when you're both in the room,
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
moving, and you're
It'd be
kind of
more like
pushing and pulling with the drummer a little bit. But it definitely is a goal that I would like to achieve, hopefully very soon, because I think it'd be awesome to put an album out. And I know a lot of people have been asking me about that. So
yeah, because I think it's still like even if with all the streaming and stuff today, but when you go on stage, if you've got a full, yeah, I'm sure you got enough songs to play in your to actually, do a show. But if you have an album, then you can kind of pitch that, you have your merch table and kind of get the buzz going. And it is like, a thing that you have to really push out, like that you'll have to like tour in this world of musicians. Like to get an album to work, you got to like tour it. You got to get in front of people. But it does. It's just cool to me to have a concept to bring to the world. I do a lot of live, like Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and I used to do like full concept of like pieces of my albums. I would do like 5 or 6 songs like straight in a show online. During COVID. I did a lot of them, but I'm always like very album focused because I kind of came from that era.
Yeah.
And so everything would be coming from like a theme. And I like the idea of an album's, even if it's like a Sgt. Pepper's and it's not like a Pink Floyd album, it still felt like an album. So like when you do an album, do you want something that's kind of eclectic, every song's different, or you want it to have a theme like a Sgt. Pepper or like a Pink Floyd, or just like a good solid album that maybe diverse?
Honestly, kind of what I'd like to do is I'd like to have themes, like plural, kind of like, even if it's just 2, but like I'd like to start somewhere and kind of transition throughout and end somewhere else, kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Even if it's not a full rock theme, like Sgt. Pepper's isn't really a themed album, but it feels like an album.
Yeah.
It feels like it's telling a story, but it's not as cohesive as like a Pink Floyd.
That exactly. That's what I like. I don't know. I like it. I liked it when Queen did it a bunch. Like, you'd have one song and it would just seamlessly flow into the next one. They were completely different songs, but even if it's just like a little piano thing, one
like
song ends one way.
Just like that. I think songs just flow into each other, and it's not really a concept album, but it kind of feels like it is because all the songs kind of merge.
Exactly. I'm also a huge fan of Extreme, and their 3rd studio album, Extreme 3. They did something like that too. Like, it starts off one way. It starts off with like Warheads and all that stuff, like real hard rock kind of, and gradually, like, it kind of just morphs into something a lot soft, more melancholy. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I love it when people do that. Yeah,
that's what I like about albums, because sometimes you can have that kind of building up and building down. You can have these moments of like quiet or kind of a different take on something. Something could be a ballad, somebody else kind of some real punk attack, real heavy attack, come in like a Zeppelin bottom kicking it, or did something more dynamic, like a Kashmir. You get to like a Kashmir, but you could have something like a Stairway to Heaven,
right?
Or some of the kind of this soul kind of just blues songs. Get a Black Dog or something. You do something, you go into something bluesy, but then you go into something eclectic, like like Kashmir is like super eclectic. It's like, wow, I didn't even know Zeppelin could do that. When it came out, I was like, wow, it's like that's different.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But I think it'd be really awesome to do, and just it's cool because like the story, you can definitely tell a story within a single, just one song. You can do a whole lot with it, but I don't know. It's like reading a compelling chapter. You know what I mean? You want to have like, multiple chapters to have the whole novel. I feel like you could ultimately tell a far more compelling story if you had 10, 11, 12 chapters, and that's
it gets to showcase you as a musician.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
People get to know the depth. Like, because your single might show one part of you.
Yeah.
But the whole album could show like multiple facets of your vision.
Exactly.
And that's where I think some people, so today they just get into these like one-hit wonder idea. And if you never really get to see the depth of what's on your playlist, you never actually dive past the song you like.
Yeah, exactly.
To see the depth of what this artist could do. They could have an acoustic song. They could have like a bunch of vocals that are layered and they do something amazing, but you never heard it because all you listen to is their single.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And honestly, another kind of like bit of a pet peeve is the shuffle button on albums. I'm sorry, but when you read a book, do you just like open to a random chapter? It's like, I'm going to read chapter
and then mix it with that one, chapter 5 and chapter 9.
You lose the continuity. Like, yeah, eventually, I guess by the end of it, like you might have somewhat of an idea of what the book was about, but like, you start with chapter 1, chapter 2, because the writer's trying to say something, same thing with an album.
Yeah, the
That
flow
track
of an
list
album.
isn't random.
Yeah, and then in this age of like the playlist, people have lost that kind of flow of how an album was supposed to be heard.
Yeah.
And I think they're losing out. I think the listener loses out for convenience sake
Hmm.
and for and whether or not listeners, I think, of music are competing. People are they're on their TikTok, they're on their Xbox, they're on their PS5, and they're not really taking the time that, like, in the 70s, I would listen to, you know, Wish You Were Here, in the basement and
Hmm.
listen to the whole thing, or Animals. I would just listen to the whole thing. And the record, when you're on vinyl, you have to. We really didn't skip around when you play a vinyl. And
Yeah.
so it kind of encouraged you to actually get the full thought. So have you thought about, maybe, I know vinyl is a cool thing. It seems like people are getting back into it because they realize it's like, if you have a cool cover, you have liner notes, you have the physical. I think it gets you to connect with the artist more if you get the vinyl
Oh,
versus just listening on
absolutely.
the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I'm also a big fan of CDs. Like, I have a huge CD collection.
Yeah, it's
Just,
the same idea. You still have a
yeah.
physical.
But like, I don't know. I've always had a policy, kind of like, if whenever I get an album, I buy a CD, I buy a vinyl or a tape, or even if I listen to it like on Spotify or whatever, I'm gonna listen to it in order. You turn off the shuffle button because, like, I want to hear what the artist or the band had to say. Like, there's intent behind that track list. I want to hear what they had to say. I don't want to miss out on that, and I don't want them to, not get their message across. After that, like, yeah, sure, like, I want to listen to this specific song because I have it stuck in my
Yeah,
head.
after first listen. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it is like there is this kind of listening etiquette people have lost because the technology allows you to skip around so
Hmm.
easily compared to, like, the record skipping around. You didn't usually want to do it. You don't want to damage your vinyl. You usually would just put it on because you risk, like, messing your record up.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't do it.
No,
and
exactly. Yeah.
now they say, oh, there's no issue with wrecking my media, so I can do it for convenience sake. But it's not actually doing yourself a favor, I think, as a listener, because I think you're, like you said, you're losing the plot.
Yeah.
You're losing, like, the whole intention. And
No, for sure.
yeah, so it's like to take the time to, like, support artists. Like I always say, like, if you like somebody, like them everywhere they are. Go on their YouTube, go on their Twitter, go on their TikTok, buy their record, tell friends about their record, go to their shows, buy their T-shirts, buy their merch. Like, that's the kind of, like, fans, like, be in their fan club, get their newsletter. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of like what a rock fan used to do. I don't know if people realize, like you have to support the art if you love the art.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things. It's like, I mean, like, I love doing this, but like, you want more of it. Like,
Yeah, well, I think the problem is, I saw the Napster thing happen, right?
mhm.
I saw it. I was in the era where I used to go to Strawberries and buy the CDs and buy the tapes and buy all that, and then the Napster come, and iTunes comes and Spotify comes, and at the end of the day, it's always the same kind of lesson. The artist doesn't get the money.
Yeah, yeah. It's very universal truth.
And even back in the day, like in the records, people were getting like 10 cents, for a $5 record, and they're getting 10 cents. So they were always getting kind of ripped, but now they're getting ripped even more. Um, and so there's, like, it's really important if an artist does have merch, they have T-shirts, if they have buttons, if they have posters, if you can get the record directly from them, it's always good to support that.
For sure, for sure. I mean, like, streaming doesn't pay. You don't get
Yeah.
anything from Spotify
It's
or
like the
anything.
radio.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like a promotional thing, and if you can get enough people to be aware of you, then maybe they'll buy your merch or they'll come to your show, and
Yeah.
that's where there's an opportunity. Because if you can get a physical show, and then people find out about you because of the streaming, that's cool. But, like, you do have to support the artist, and
Yeah.
people have Patreons, people have all kinds of things. I am a big fan of, like, if you get into liking somebody's music, you need to kind of go whole hog and support your indie artist.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a kind of marching orders for the audience.
You heard him.
Like your mission today is to support the music. Like if you like Andy and like Alexander, like go and find him everywhere and tell your friends and tell more friends. That's the key. That's the key. Because like if you love it, then they show it like you love it.
Yeah. And it means more than anything in the world, really, just to have people digging on the same stuff that you're digging on. So
yeah, it's super cool, and I'm a really like if you get that new album, if you get that album together, you're welcome to come back here. Check our calendar out. We love to have ours come back, especially for like premieres of new material, new projects. If you find that you get on a tour or something, let us know, and we'll shoot it out to our people. Like if you're doing stuff, but yeah, we like to support artists, and I want to thank you for being on the Family Like the Ghost podcast. It's been really cool.
Thank you so much. I've had a phenomenal time.
But thank you. You can support music or independent music. Check out Andy's music on Spotify. We got the link there. It's fully clickable. You don't have to remember all that. You'll be able to click it within the podcast description. We've been on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We will be on multiple platforms by tomorrow. We'll be on Spotify Video Podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and check it out. Thank you.